Good evening. My name is Tom Davis, right under Thomas Davis, and we're here for the Dickinson Poetry Series tonight that's been going on so many years in Ephraim, Wisconsin. And tonight I'm going to read some poems, and Ethel Mortensen Davis is going to read some poems. And Ethel's going to be reading from her book, uh, A Letter on the Horizon poem. I'm going to be reading from my new book, Meditation on Ceremonies of Beginnings. Ethel's book's been out for about a year from a publisher in Utah. My book is by Tribal College Press in Colorado, and it's been out just a couple of months. So we're going to start with Ethel from her book. Ethel?
Yes, thank you. I'm starting with the poem April. April on tossed hair in trees, across the paths and grass, with branches stuck in seas of sky comes, and nowhere is the snow that covered us and protected us. But now green pushes up, and I hold on a moment like bark, and I hear a swinging down out of trees, and I see your surprised face when the earth jumps up fast to meet your legs. The second poem is titled Reflections of a Country Girl for Her Mother. Once, when the creek had swelled its banks in spring, and I had run to meet its new boundaries to build a raft again that could carry me down the little Sandy towards lands unknown, I was sidetracked by a patch of blue and yellow violets, too many to let go unnoticed, found among the wet and shady places, and I forgot about the countries unseen. And in fistfuls I came running, sharing them with you, and you received them well, arranging them in glass jars, teaching me to love the spring beauties and things, the funny-faced Holstein calves, and the timid chickadees who came in December to snatch your winter's crumbs. The last poem is Life. We went past somebody's place, and there were things sitting all over, and kids, and a woman looking out of a window at a cat, and the kids were in puddles with their eyes in oceans, and they were waiting for a storm or something, and the place looked twice as junky as it did when the snow was. But it didn't matter because it smelled warm and the sky was heavy and life stood in the mud open-mouthed. Thank you.
Wonderful, Ethel. I'm also going to read two poems. They're a little bit longer. Uh, this particular book is built of poems that I wrote over a 40-year period while we were founding the Tribal College movement in the United States and the World Indigenous Nations Higher Education Consortium movement worldwide, where tribal colleges and universities and indigenous controlled colleges were founded everywhere from uh, up in Alaska, the remotest part of Alaska, all the way over to Sweden and Norway, where the Sami created a college. The first poem is Meditation on the Ceremony of the Surgeon, and it was written while Dr. Verna Fowler and I were founding College of the Menominee Nation in Keshena, Wisconsin. And it's about when the Menominee became Catholic. Dr. Fowler was a nun, but in this case, it's about Legend Lake and the formation of Legend Lake, which was not popular with the Menominee because they lost land through the process. And this was treaty land that they'd really fought hard to maintain and get. And the speaker in the poem is a young student at this newly forming college. It still hadn't come into existence yet. I sing of fish and rivers, people dark with winter, light with summer. Full of song, I sit here on the banks beside this man-made lake and see a time when lakes were not man-made, when forests covered all this northern land. A time when deer and bear were plentiful and men and women didn't have to mourn the sicknesses that plague our Mother Earth. In those lost times, the white man's ways were new. Our people saw them swarm like locust clouds across the land. Their lumber barons felling great white pines, red oak, elm, maple, beechwood trees, as farmland followed saws and sawmills, plagues that had no end. Chief Oshkosh led us here. He heard the white man's streams of words and saw how other tribes were forced to move from woods to plains where trees were miracles amidst the worlds of grass. He found a place of stones, woods, water, where the white man's farms would fail when plows bit soil and found deep stones. He said, "This is our place." And then let all the white man's storm of words pelt down like hail upon a massive, unresponsive stone. Inside this place we made a life that suited us. We fished for sturgeon in the warming spring and hunted deer and bear when fall brought maple fire. Back then we hadn't yet become the song we would become. We heard the wild man walk beside us in the woods and sometimes saw the serpents looking for a man who'd lost protection from the watchful thunderbirds. The Christian God, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, had yet to find the hearts of who we were. We lived in days and nights protected by our fathers and the totems of our clans. We were a glory and a blessing to the earth. But all things touched by white men change. Perhaps we could have stayed the way we were. Perhaps the white men's ways were wrong for us. Perhaps we could have kept our Eden sweet with earth. But once, when sturgeon, dark and large as logs, submerged beneath cold waters as a wolf, did not spawn when the sap was in the maple trees, our people were afraid. What omen from the river's cold? Our people prayed. We held the sun upon a pole as bright with colors as a prism's light. We hung a sheaf of fresh-cut cedar sticks strung taut with small symbolic sturgeon nets. We begged the sun to send the sturgeon up the wolf. The fish had come into the Petchachek and Okatone. We said our exhortations, prayed and prayed, and in our people's consternation, questioning, the question ran, what could we do? What could we do? Without the sturgeon, children in the winter starved. Then, in this time, our father Andre came, his cassock dark with Christian faith and life. He stood beside the river with us, filled with Christian power, power not from where we were, and prayed to God to let the sturgeon swim against the current of the river to this place where people waited for the life they were. He had us put the symbol of the sun away and had us place a crucifix where we had stood below the shining light of who we'd been. We honored life back then. We honored life. Then, like a Christian miracle, the sturgeon came, as if they'd heard the priest's strong voice and saw the cross. They swam as if no power in the universe could ever stop their swimming or the song they were. They came in numbers stunning to the mind. And when they came, so glorious, alive, conversion set into the hearts of many clans. A priest made exhortation to the spirit world, the sturgeon, powerful and dark, swam up the great Wolf River to their spawning ground. That's how it happened. How we stepped into the spirit place where all our people live, traditional people, Catholics, those who know no God or spirit living in their lives. And here I sit beside this man-made lake, inside the ice and snow of winter song, and know the sturgeon come no longer to these lands. Why did the sturgeon come just then? I kneel and say my prayer. Great Creator, Spirit, God, why did the sturgeon come just then? And the other poem's much shorter that I'm going to read. And it's about the World Indigenous Nations Higher Education Consortium and the day it was founded in the Stony Reserve up in Canada, 8702. Rock mountains thrown down out of sky into the green girdle of pine and spruce that fall into white trunks of aspen, fluttering leaves in the valley beside the sometimes molten turquoise of a river. In this place, beside a lake alive with small waves below mountains, the tall aborigine puts his lips to didgeridoo and blows out earth songs into humming bones. His mother's voice soaring above deepness, voices of cultures from mountains, hills, valleys, ocean shores, forests, swamps, lakes, steppes, deserts, spilling languages alive into the ecology of peoples, the didgeridoo inside heart song of generation, backward and forward from this time, this place, words flowed around tables, voices became people as songs saw spirit of prayer, humility, hope, words and people circled inside each other as agreement approached a field mouse twitching at wind's breath on blades of grasses. And that's this Poetry Month's night of Dickinson poetry. Thank you very much. We'll see you later when the pandemic's passed and we can all get together again.